Natushita, is my screen visible?
No, Nyaneshwari. You
Yeah,
are visible.
actually, yeah.
You are visible, but your screen.
Dhaneshwari, you can start.
Yeah, okay. I'm visible, right? And audible?
Yes, yes, you are visible and audible.
Yeah. A very good evening to all. I am Jnaneshwari Elne, Secretary and Membership Development Chair at IEEE YCCSB and student member at IEEE Nagpur Subsection and Bombay Section Students Committee. I welcome you all today to today's webinar. IEEE Region 10 New Innovation Challenge under Educational Activities SEDP Skills for Employment Development Program presents Innovation Challenge Game-A-Thon. Today is our third day of the Game-A-Thon. Today's third day topic is web application based game development. I warmly welcome our today's speaker, Anmoldeep Singh. Anmoldeep Singh is from our CTech department, a web developer, co-member of GDG Nagpur. I can kindly request all of you to please mute your mic. Now I request our speaker to please continue the today's session.
Hello
Yeah,
everyone, am I
hello.
audible?
Yeah, Anmoldeep, you're audible.
Okay. Just give me a moment to share my screen. Okay, may I start? If you all allow me.
Yes,
Yeah, you
Anmol.
can start. Yeah.
Uh, Good evening everyone. This is Anmoldeep Singh Arora here, aka CSE Singh, and we are here to today explore one of the most interesting sides of the whole technology domain, game development. And because I'm a web developer, so in web game development. Let's begin. Some bits about me. I'm myself Anmoldeep Singh Arora, aka CSE Singh. As I said, I'm also as Naneshwari told you, I'm a web developer, CSE undergrad, ML enthusiast, GDG Nagpur core member, and a lot of other stuff that you can find on my portfolio website. And first of all, before starting the session, I would like to immensely be grateful and express my gratitude to all these people. Dr. Prachi Palshodkar ma'am, who gave me this opportunity, Trushita Sonkusare and Ronak Suthar, who are the actual organizers of these sessions. Like they are managing the whole communication part, and Neeraj and Pragya, thanks a lot because they were the ones who were with me while creating all these presentations, designing this whole experience for you. and you are going to witness something completely different. And for those who are thinking that it will be either be very much technical to understand or maybe very much lame to be stick with, I would say it is a perfect balance between both of them. So let's get started. First, let's see what we'll be doing. This whole session is consists of two segments. Each segment is just an exaggerated way of covering the fundamentals. Participants are not allowed to use help of any kind to answer during session. Come on, give Google and your fingers a break. But of course, this is just for fun, so have fun. And how would you respond to the questions? Just a good reminder of the ways. You can there are yes or no questions. There are some maybe some multiple type questions may come up, or some one liners, some true or false, and whatnot. And yeah, we also miss you being in person. These sessions used to be in person, but let's use whatever we can do and give our best. So round one, the web. Before beginning and touching to the details, let me ask this. What comes to your mind when you think of the word, or when the word web comes to your mind? What is the first thing? Any answers?
Website.
Website. Good. Okay. Any more? Come on. We can
Networks.
move it. What?
Networks.
Networks. A really good answer. Any literal answer, like somebody's sarcastic here? What?
Spiderweb.
Spiderweb. Okay. But that's not exactly what I'm referring to. Any other? Anyone? Any more answers like website? We got website.
And backend.
Front end. Okay, that's also a good answer. And just in case, I think we have a little bit scarcity of extra epic sarcastic mind, because I was waiting for this answer. If you know about it. Anyways, let's go to the actual point, the web. So first question comes up. What are the websites that you know or you use often? Name some of them.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay, good point. Aman Thakur search engines. Again, good.
Kaggle.
Kaggle. Okay. Any more?
Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow. I guess this I should have covered, but okay. Yeah, it was a really good one. Reddit. Again, another good answer. HackerEarth. Very
Geeks for Geeks.
Geeks for Geeks. Yes, I've got that covered. Yeah, these were the ones that I came up with in the first thought. I think Stack Overflow should also be added. The first thing that came to my mind was Google and YouTube. Guruji, you know. So moving ahead. Now let's dive into a bit of technicals. For those who have already known about web, they might have ever stumbled upon this one image. But how does it really relates to web or something else? This is the question. Yes or no?
It does.
Anyone for no? Or yes? How many?
Subconscious mind.
Subconscious mind. I think that's a bit of psychology side of the things. I'm talking about pure technical parts. Does this image relates to web in any way
Yes.
or not?
Yes, sir.
It does. Okay, can you please explain a bit? Like how?
सर जैसे कि हम सब देखते हैं, हम कोई नॉर्मली वेबसाइट को चलाते हैं तो हम लोग देखते हैं, हम लोग मतलब सामने हम फैमिलियर रहते हैं, हमको ऑप्शन रहता है, हम एक चीज़ को क्लिक करते हैं और हम दूसरे मतलब जो भी साइट पे हम जाते हैं, लेकिन उसके पीछे में जो कोडिंग की रहती है उस इमेज को लगाने में, उसको इमेज को फिर वो जब क्लिक होगा तो वो दूसरे साइट पे जाना चाहिए, तो उसके पीछे बहुत लंबी सी कोडिंग रहती है जो कि ये इमेज बिल्कुल उसको दिखाती है.
The part visible from the land is front end and
Yes,
which is
back end, front end and back end.
Yes.
I would say you guys are kind of more even more knowledgeable than I thought, and that's a really good sign because it will be more interesting for me to do the session. Actually, the image, this image, I purposely chose because there has a different meaning. But what you are referring to is exactly something like this, right? The front end and the back end.
Yes, sir.
The user sees just a part of it, but there is a whole lot of coding and pain goes behind making it, right?
Yes, sir.
You all are correct, but there is this one other concept. Why this image? Why is the iceberg concept? Any ideas?
Amount
Sir,
of
how
technology
about
that's used.
the amount of text and content that we can view using Google or some ranking algorithm is the tip of the iceberg, and the amount of content that is actually there
Yes.
on the web is a lot, right, sir?
Right. Perfect answer. I was just coming to that point. Yeah, see, we are just using 4% of web because that is being scraped or being indexed by search engines. But there is a whole lot of part of internet that is happening even right now that we can't access just because we don't have direct ways to accessing it. And that is something is called as the deep web, and there is this one portion inside deep web which is a bit more anonymous, uses tor websites, tor encrypted sites, and because there is no identity, so it is a home for the bad activities as well. That's why people always suggest you not to go there, because just being a surfing individual, there are chances that you might get into some trouble just because of your IPs was used somewhere or something else. Completely technical parts of it, but yes, perfect answer. Thank you, Mr. Atif Hassan. May I tell about you? May I tell
It's
about
all
you?
right.
Right? You allow?
If you wish to.
I would love to. So, all of you, please, just this was something I would like to add in the session, which was not planned because I didn't knew he will be able to join or not. But he's one of those ML experts, I would say, whom I keep bugging to learn something new. Sometimes, of course, despite being busy, he always answers so amazingly, and you can think that he is a person who is like he has that maths of ML as their daily pills. He is awesome. And if you're doubting on my point, he is working with Stanford University. He is currently in IITs, and there is a lot to see. But for those who are interested, they may go to the LinkedIn because, of course, this session has to continue. Thanks for joining, Mr. Atif. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
And let's proceed. So now, yeah, let's get into the web. We know about these are websites. There are multiple things. There is these so many layers that we are unaware about. But that is something not we need for game development, right? We need our games to be accessible. But first, when we are creating a game, there are both ways. You can go from the front end to back end to front end. But I prefer back end because there is a sense behind it. I'll get to it in a short while. So let's dive into the first half of web, that is the backend. And how will we discuss this? Because it's a way too much big thing. So I have something else for you. This I really think that mind maps are really good to explain things that are complex. So before exploring this path, I want to ask this one again, one another question. What you know about backend? What it includes? What are the elements that you know about a backend when it comes to backend development?
HTML,
Yes.
CSS, and JavaScript.
Okay,
And PHP also.
interesting.
Node.js.
Node.js, good.
React.
Stan- yes, Mohit, what you said?
React.
React, okay. Any more questions? Any more point? Like, pardon, please.
Django.
Django, again, good points.
MongoDB.
So, MariaDB, MongoDB, yes. So let's get to it. First of all, let me clarify a bit. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React. These answers, four answers. These belong to front end. Okay. Just to be clear, we will go over it, like why they are front end, not a part of backend. We'll get to it, but just keep in mind that HTML, CSS, JavaScript, these are always running inside the window, and React is directly you kind of being the bridge between the server and client side, that is browser. That's why it is purely front end part. The backend comes in, as you said, PHP. It comes in Node.js. It consists of MongoDB, MariaDB, the database systems, the middle routing elements, and all of those stuffs. APIs. So let's explore the paths. There are these things: server-side scripting, cloud technologies, and analytics. Remember, we are talking right now about game development sides of the web. So these three are required by us as essentials. There are many topics in web that you might stumble upon as you scale up to like creating the next COC. But for now, for basic introduction, for being familiar with whatever comes next on your gaming journey, because my goal here is to prepare you for the journey of the next 5 to 10 or 15 days, whatever you will be spending on to making your own games. Okay, so let's explore cloud technologies first. There is this IaaS, PaaS, or IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and this one might not be familiar to most of you. So how many of you know about these terms? Like, what do they stand for? Any ideas? Yes.
SaaS is software as a service.
Yeah, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Not sure about the BAS is. BAS.
Any guesses? Like just any random guess for BAS?
Backend or something? Not sure.
Bingo! It's actually a correct answer. See, we kind of things are just simple. We have just given them names to be able to distinguish. Okay. At the end of the day, all of them are just a simple thing that there is one thing that will show data, one thing that will handle data, one thing that will save data. That's it. I'm kind of very much generalizing it, but yeah. So these are the terms. Before getting onto these terms, let's touch server-side scripting as well. There we have all these options that a few of you covered: Node.js, PHP. JSP is Java, Java server pages, I guess, if I'm not wrong. Jakarta server pages. Okay, that is something a bit different. Then we have Perl, Ruby. There is this one thing with Ruby that is very much famous. Anybody knows about the word? I can give a hint. It is a three-letter.
Ruby on Rails.
Ruby on Rails.
It is a complete framework for Ruby that is actually be used for creating a backend. Ruby is just a language. Perl is just a language. PHP is just a language. Can you name a very popular framework, or you can say like complete package to
Laravel.
create a? Laravel is a good answer, but I'm talking about kind of something like a drag and drop thing based on PHP. Anybody remember?
WordPress.
WordPress. Perfect. And yes, Laravel is also a great thing. It is really good to get started.
Elementor.
Elementor is a plugin inside WordPress, I would say. Okay. It is a plugin of WordPress. You need WordPress first. So, but again, yeah, good answers. Coming further, anyone knows about some modules that are almost definitely being used when you are creating a Node app, like the basic ones? Some modules, if you remember.
Controllers.
Okay, you are talking about the theoretical parts. Let me kind of touch. Now this will give you a guess.
Express. Okay.
Yes. Why? What it is?
Vue.
Vue.js. Yes. Now that is the part of front end. We'll get to it later. We have that covered. Don't worry. There is this thing called as body parser to handle HTML data. These are the modules that you will use when you are working in Node.js environment. Okay. So we can go for like, yes, Python is also one. Somebody named it as well. Can you please say it again? What was the Python backend framework?
Flask.
Django.
Flask.
Yes.
Django. Yes, both of these. But I would suggest that these are, when you go for a web development project, these are not actually made for web, you can say, like, because of course they do the work, but when you go for like something complex and that is very much related to web, so that's where Python and creating a backend in Python becomes a bit hectic to handle, because most of the dependencies that you need are based on JavaScript, and then there is a lot of middleware stuff to do. But yeah, Python is really good for ML purposes, deploying your model, and for hackathons when you have less time and you have to create the whole product as a prototype, right? So that is the place where Python backend works like a charm. Like, of course, technologies have their own place to work the best. Okay, this was the server-side scripting. Let's move back to the cloud technologies. Now I want to ask, how many names you can give me when it comes to IaaS? Like, you guys already told me that yes, IaaS is infrastructure as a service, but who offers? Who are the vendors? Anyone?
AWS,
Good answer. Any more?
Google Cloud Services.
Google Clouds,
One more if you remember, like Azure. Yes, perfect. And there's one more that is much popular, but let's see if anybody can answer. Anyone? GCP, AWS, Azure. Any other than that?
CloudOcean.
DigitalOcean.
DigitalOcean, sorry.
Take it. We have it. Other one was Linode that I was expecting, but again, it was a good answer, so I had to go with it. And
IBM Cloud Services.
again, right, perfect answer. How could I miss that? IBM was the first company to get into these things in such a high scale. Now, let's move on to PaaS. Any answers for the vendors who provide PaaS, platform as a service?
Windows Azure.
Oracle, yes. Cisco Meta Cloud. Aniruddha Chaudhary.
Heroku.
Yes, it is also an answer.
Heroku or GitHub.
GitHub platform as a service. Okay, we can count it because of the GitHub. What was the name? GitHub pages. Yes, for that we can count, but it is again static hosting, so there is no runtime. That's why it doesn't perfectly fits into platform as a service. But yeah, it can be an answer when it comes to only static file hostings. It gives you a place to handle your files and serve them. Aniruddha Chaudhary, good answers. Cisco Metacloud, that was that I didn't even remember for a while. Back end less. Okay. Yes, that's part of it, I would say. I think you are a really good one. I'm thinking to learn from you a bit. Like, these were the new terms for me. I didn't remember that Cisco also offers this. Okay, let me fill on the beans. Past options, we have Google App Engine. I waited, somebody answers, but okay. This will be a learning for all of you. Google App Engine, Heroku, and AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Now there comes an ambiguity, like AWS is both IaaS and PaaS. The answer is yes, because AWS Elastic Beanstalk is one of the offerings in which they create the runtime for you, and you just deploy your own app. And in case of AWS EC2, you actually request an infrastructure, set up the infrastructure for your app, and then deploy the app. Okay, so AWS has multiple offerings, so that's why it falls into multiple categories. Now, this is one of the most interesting part, because even those who are not familiar with cloud are actually using it. SaaS, software as a service.
Salesforce.com.
Google Drive, Mega.
Google Drive, Mega, yes. Whimsical, SmartBoy.
OneCloud.
Yes, all of these are SaaS because yes, they are offering a service of storage and file handling, that also on a user specific level, but something more beyond, like a complete suite. If you remember, yes, Salesforce.com is also one of them. Adobe is, I get
G Suite.
Yes, complete G Suite is also a SaaS. Google Docs, and the complete Google Workspace services. Okay, so. And a good answer I've also got from the chats. Thanks again. Zoho, SurveyMonkey, Salesforce. These are really good answers of this part. Salesforce. It is really growing a lot these days. And then we got answers with Zoho, and I would say Canva. The funny part is the whole presentation is also made on Canva, and the whole this software, this mind mapping software, is called Whimsical, and that is also based on software as a service because I'm using it directly. I'm not doing any app deployment, setting up configurations. I'm just directly using the app. Okay, so that's how I identify. Now let's come to the new boy here, the new one in the game, backend as a service. There are not many of them, but something that is these are just hints for you to identify what it is. It is very popular these days, but it is not. There is not many competitors, and it is offered by Google. Can you name it? Backend as a service. Quick any guesses? We have to move on to the actual game parts as well. Okay, I don't see much answers. Anyone? Last 5 seconds.
Yes, in the chat we have got one answer.
Yes. Again, Shushanto is perfect answer. It's Firebase. Google Meet is again a software as a service, so it doesn't fall in the BAS, unfortunately. And there are some other, but they are not that much popular, or maybe I'm not much familiar with them. That's why I'm not covering them in this slide. Okay, so we just covered cloud and the final part. Now you might ask that yes, we are game developers. We need to set up our own servers. That's why we need server-side scripting. We need to deploy our game and we need to scale it to the world, level. That's why we need to understand how cloud technologies work. But wait, analytics, why do we need that? Any guesses? Like, why? What would you do with analytics, and why you should have analytics tools implemented inside your system as a game developer or a game publisher?
To check the popularity, reach.
Okay, it's a part of it. There are more crucial parts to it because as you develop your game, for example, if you take on point of any simple games that we know, these games were not made.
Server monitoring.
So monitoring, yes, that's one of the technical sides of it, and it is also covered in the mind map. Very good part. There is this one thing that I might expect: check bugs and issues. Yes, that is also a very crucial point because you get to know that when it happened, why it happened. Mohit was saying something.
No, sir.
Okay, so let me bring more light to it. We have data analytics, we have usage analytics, and we have performance analytics. Why do we need each of them? Okay, if you have data analytics, what would you do with it? Any guesses? If it triggers something. Okay, let me go over it. Offer localized skins, decide where to spread first, and choose holiday offers of in-game perks. This is just, you can say, the first layer of all the possibilities that you can open up once you deploy data analytics mechanisms into your games. But yeah, these are the things that will actually drive your game engagement, and it will make it grow later on once it is published on the world you can say the world markets. But what if you don't have them? You are kind of stuck between in somewhere, right? Because you don't know how to make it grow. With analytics, data analytics, you have some idea that yes, I can grow my game into these dimensions. Okay. Feel free to ask any questions in between, or you will always have a chance to do it that at the end. Then we have usage analytics. What do we do with it? We can find a good time to perform maintenance because again, game development, game servers are very hectic to manage, and when it comes to maintenance parts, because there are many race conditions happening behind the scene that you need to handle, and for that you need to put the server down for a while to make sure that nothing crashes in the long run. And when would you do this? You will aim for the timing that is where the game servers or the players are least using it. For example, I have seen local indie developers doing it for like 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. And for those who find out that their games are being played more in the span of 12 a.m. to 3 a.m., they do maintenance in 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. In the morning. So that helps you a lot to find out timing for maintenance processes. You can add, rearrange, remove buttons according to use and frequency. This is a point that we can even witness in Google Meet. You can see that there are a lot of new things happening inside Meet, including the what do we call it, the network managers that gives you details that if you are having a bad internet or if other person is having a bad internet, you can have an idea about it. And this is also applicable to games, because there are times when you might implement a button a bit wrong, either very short or maybe very big, or maybe in a place that it is difficult to approach. So you can just change it, and you can have an idea what to change and what not to according to the usage analytics. Then comes the peak hours to offer surprises, because you want to give back to your players, right? You want to keep them engaged, you want to keep them happy, so you want to do some offerings for in-game assets to be given for free for a particular slot of time, so that they invite more people to play and claim those surprises, and you get more players to play your game. And there are these other stuff. It also helps to choose battle times or competition timings that suits most of the people, so that the competition or challenges become more exciting for the players and as well as for you, because it is also kind of, you can say, like, it is your system on the trial to see such a high level competition being done smoothly without any errors. So the last part that somebody covered, I don't remember the name, sorry for that. So system performance analysis covers that part, for that we need to get, it helps us to know that when we should scale and prepare accordingly. It also helps us to estimate costs in the long run and plan for business goals to always stay in profit when it comes to operational cost and the revenues being generated. Because of course, despite being games made for fun, we cannot overlook the fact that there are some costs involved in order to keep running them. Like we all know, it costs money, and that needs to be generated in order to keep going. So that is something that gives analytics gives you, and without that, I'm not sure how will you manage it. But yeah, that is something very crucial. Let's get back to this. So let's take it a simple example for those who are still not familiar with the cloud technologies. Let's think of these blue boxes as the things that you manage. Green ones are the things that vendor manages. So if you are talking about a pizza service, so if you are having your own restaurant, if you are having your own oven, your own kitchen, your own pizza dough, your own toppings, and you are yourself cooking the pizza, then it is called as a traditional on-premises deployment, which is completely made in-house. You have your own place and all stuff. Then if you don't want to go for the place management, managing the place, managing the electricity, gas, oven, etc., and you ask and you use a service from a vendor, then this example becomes an infrastructure as a service. In that case, you just need to take your pizza dough, you prepare your own pizza dough, you need to bring your own toppings, and you have to come up to cook the pizza. So this becomes a kitchen as a service, which you can use whenever you want and pay along as much as you use, like pay as you go system. Then if you don't want to do the pizza dough and you just want to be like experimenting with it and creating new pizzas out of nowhere, so then you can go for platform as a service. This is what we were talking about earlier as runtime already set up. You just deploy the app. So that is where you just put the toppings and cook the pizza according to your need. You have already the base and everything and the whole infrastructure setup. Then comes this can also be called as walk-in and bake. You just walk in, customize your pizza and bake it. Then comes the software as a service, where everything is being managed by the vendor, and you just go in, you describe what you want, and you get it. So we can directly call this pizza as a service, because the only thing that we are worried about or we are managing it is how the pizza should be. Okay, now comes the web front end part, painting the next screen. Let's paint it. Yes. Now, what what comes under front end? How many of you know about it? The terms.
What the user sees on the browser.
Whatever the user sees on the screen. Pretty much good answer. Ajinkya, raise a hand, please. Say. Ajinkya. Typing. Okay, sure. Presentation layer. Okay, we have good engineers here. Just for your knowledge, Aman Thakur is actually sitting beside me. So yeah, UI, yes, a good answer. Whatever falls into UI, it is somewhere relevant to front end, of course. UI UX, yes, that is also a lovely field when it comes to front end. I'm still waiting for Ajinkya's answer. It's much like menu. Okay, good answer, because yes, that is how a user interacts with the system, no matter how complex it is. There are these things called as dashboards and also, so they kind of fall into the menu category, or maybe a bit similar with it. So let's proceed further. Let's explore this branch called front end. We have UI, we have UX, we have UI UX tools, and we have frameworks. Now, this might be confusing that UI and UX are separate, but then again, they are same. Actually, UI and UX are separate fields, but because they share so many things in common, that their tools are also common. They use the same tools, and you can do UI development and UX development, both of them using the same tools. It depends on what is the aim inside your mind when you are doing it. So, for example, a UX developer will have in mind that my user should be able to use it very easily, and it should be as much as possible familiar to him. But on the other side, a UI developer might think to make it much more attractive and kind of geeky sometimes. Sometimes, for say, if it is an horror app, UI developer will try to make it creepy. If it is a gaming app, it will try to gamify the elements and the flow and the transitions and all those stuff. But at the end of the day, they will use the same tools, and they will use wireframing or prototyping tools. Can you name any of these? Which tools I'm just about to explore? Adobe XD, yes. Figma, yes.
HTML.
Okay, these are the common ones. Figma, prototype. That is a different story, because that is something it is the base of you can say like HTML, HTML web. When it comes to web, these things has to be there. Now, after we have this question, I have a question for you. This is HTML, CSS, JS or not? A simple yes or no. Balsamic, good answer. That's a pure programming tool. Yes. Any no's? Anyone? Come on, give it a try. Yes, we have 2 yes. Any single no? Is it that biased answer? Like it is such a biased question? There is no? Okay, we got 1 no. Okay, are there any more answers, or we can move on? I think we are going a bit, because the fun part is yet to come. I'm just touching the basics. Not sure. Okay, that's a good answer. The actual answer is yes. I was just trying to trick you. Because of course, it's okay to be sometimes doubtful. That shows that that there is scope to learn, and that is something that will help you a lot, because that will inculcate the desire to learn more and keep you updated with the world, and in short words, keep you on the bright side. Okay, so why yes? Because whatever you do, in fact, Canva, this arrow, whatever this hovering green circle is coming to my cursor, this is also done by JS. Everything is JS. And if you want to doubt me, there's this one thing that I will like show you. Let me stop screen for this first, because I cannot, it doesn't shows the inspect element tab. So you can see, right, everything here is HTML. There are inline styles assigned to it. There are some style file, CSS files attached to these that are giving it some properties. These properties also include these positioning, margins, borders, paddings to make some space, keep them aligned, etc., etc. And at the end of the day, it is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. For those who have a doubt, just go to the network tab and there will surely be some JS files being loaded here, because without it, these things like this clicking and all scrolling, these things are just not possible. Okay, let me get back to the simple tab sharing quickly. And yes, so this is an example of wireframe. Wireframes are basics. We just draw out things on paper, then we create a prototype like this one, which is more alive. You can feel it. You can have an experience of how the UI flows. That is why you create an UI. Then when you it comes to the experience part, it becomes UX. That's how these two fields are very, very similar, but still different. Okay. So before going over there, let's cover just these frameworks quickly. We have React, we have Angular, we have Vue, we have Bootstrap. Wait, Bootstrap is a framework? Yes, it is, because it includes JS, and there is a lot of things that you can do without having a complete framework behind the scenes. There is Svelte. This one is I'm not familiar about, but it is one of them. jQuery was very much used before in Bootstrap as well. Recently, they have developed a no jQuery version of it, but it still works behind the scene when it comes to the previous version or specific jQuery version. Then there are Ember.js, Backbone.js, Semantic UI. There are a lot of them, but at the end of the day, what I will suggest is going for Angular, because it is complete, it is robust, and it scales well. Vue is also just a bit similar, but I haven't used it. That I'll be honest on that part. Bootstrap is basically a front-end framework just to handle that styling and all those stuff, giving you good buttons, good elements to play with. But when it comes to backend handling, it doesn't help you there, like rendering server-side pages. And React is just one word for people's mind, but it actually is just a library. It is not a framework, and that's why it needs one extra thing. Can you name it? Anyone? In order to compete with the features of Angular, what one extra thing you need with React? It's Redux. You might have heard of it. Next.js is a complete different framework. We can count it over here. It is kind of backend combined with React, and you can just go with it. Like there is not much of, you can say, like you don't need to handle the routing part. You have a basic website ready. You just create the file name, you have a page of it. It's like when you don't have a website that is an app, it is a pure website, then in that case, Next.js is a really good choice. Okay, let's move back to the slides. Now the fun about to start. With the web network, okay. Let me ask this question first. That you know, games that you know where cheating isn't possible. Any answer? Anyone? Okay, let me improvise on it, because of course there are some ways. So let's say where cheating is difficult. You cannot cheat pretty easily. It takes a lot of efforts, a lot of activities to cheat on the game, which I don't know. Yes?
Chess.
Chess, okay. That's a bit, you can say like it is a game, not I'm talking about some actual computer game, specific name of a game.
Valorant.
We don't have gamers here, or what?
Valorant.
Bully Scholarship Edition.
Which one, Brunmai?
Bully Scholarship Edition.
Bully Scholarship Edition, yes. Good one. That was also a fun game. So these are the two examples that I took upon, because CSGO is also very much difficult to set up for cheating. And COC is another level of thing, because it is purely server based. If you want to cheat, you need to create your own server. And as I told you, it will take a lot of cost. So it is completely nonsense to go for cheating on COC. it is not worth it. I've seen people doing on internet, and the main trouble that they face is they cannot play with people on the regular servers, and they use their custom servers, and they also crash often. So it's like it takes away the whole essence of the game. So there is no sense on cheating in COC. And I would always suggest not to do it, because of course games are meant to be played. Why are you spoiling the fun with having some mods or cheats in place? And also these games, and again some amazing games: Valorant, Dota 2. I haven't played this one. I will be playing soon, maybe, or who knows when I do. So let me take you to some point. How many of you know about Among Us? I guess I might not get them,
but haven't played yet.
Haven't played yet. Okay, have some time to play it. Wow, that's amazing. So many raised hands. Lovely, it's so lovely to see this, like such a good response. And again, how many of you know about the actual story behind Among Us? Mohit knows. Okay, good one. Mohit, can you touch on this? Like, explain a bit. What do you know about the story of Among Us?
सर मुझे लगा आपने पूछे कि कौन कौन नहीं जानता है अमंग अस के स्टोरी के बारे में, इसलिए मैंने आपको
Okay, no problem. Don't. We are touching on. So the actual story behind Among Us is that in 2018, multiplayer game tested. The multiplayer game feature was becoming so popular, but they were not expecting such a huge response from throughout the world, and that's why they wanted to stop it. But they still kept it going for a while, because it was just like three-member team, which is now 4. But back then it was just 3 people handling a game for the whole world. You can understand the stress that goes behind it. Okay, and then then they said that in late 2020, like Inaswa team explained that their first developers update for the year increased traction Among Us. Received in late 2020 meant that they had to go back to the working on it after thinking that it was done. They thought Among Us has ended. They moved on to the next game. But this was the actual story, how Among Us was made and why the developers wanted to quit. We will be touching on this a bit. Let's see. Okay, don't spoil the fun, man. Please. Work.
Through green light, but randomly after about a month we were approved. During this time, Forrest was still working full-time for Microsoft as a computer engineer, and on top of that, Marcus and Forrest lived a 4-hour drive away from each other. This made development tricky and unable to move along at a fast pace. By November 26th,
Perfect.
Development had become so slow that Marcus decided to start remastering one of his other projects called the Henry Stickmin series. Despite all of that, they both still wanted to pursue a career in game development, so the duo made efforts to make that dream easier. Marcus
These were the first 2 games that they made, and you can see they didn't actually earn a lot, but still they made consistent growth in some games. Some of them worked. And
time together eventually lined up in October 2017. They still hadn't given up on their old project and decided to give Deity a fair shot this time around.
Game that they built.
Unfortunately, after spending a week rebuilding old assets and iterating on the concept, it became clear that the game just wasn't that interesting. While it may seem like they wasted months of their lives, Forrest described it as a valuable experience. In retrospect, spending a year iterating a single design produced a lot of good things, and we are now much better at finding fun, but also, I have a lot of excitement to return with such a fixed destination.
See the insight, that's how you approach failure. You see the learning and be grateful for that.
It should be learned when an idea to return to that point without also building on a year of mistakes. We learned when an idea just isn't working out as planned, you need to drop the idea or drop the plan. Don't spend a year mashing them together. It's much easier said than done. While Deity it may have been a failed project, it did help convince the team to develop Among Us instead. The alternative to repairing Deity was Among Us, and developing that was exciting and felt right from the get-go. The developers were inspired by the social deduction game called Mafia, also known as.
So you can see often actual new games are just some you can say like modified versions of the existing card games or board games or actual game movies, game books, kind of like things like that. So it was also based on the game Mafia, the party game, which was actually a card-based game in which you have to identify who is the mafia member apart from others. So that is why the concept of one imposter came up, and they wanted to go for a good name. So that's why, while thinking upon it, they wanted to say it very simply instead of saying it mafia. They wanted to make it simple that yes, there is somebody, some imposter among us, and that's how the name came up. But if you want, you might doubt that, yeah, is there any real connection with Mafia game and this Among Us? So you can still go to the actual app and you can observe that there is this inner slot dot space Mafia. That is what they named in the first place to the game Among Us, and then the game name came up. Okay.
To just bang something out.
So let's move with it. So that's how the story of Among Us worked. They didn't expected people; they just made it. And because of having such a good experience of previous games, it was a really fun game to use. And it after around a year, not immediately. It was idle for around a year, and then suddenly it got traction from the Russian players, and the whole game became worldwide widespread. Okay, we haven't touched one of these elements, maybe. The network and hardware. Let's quickly cover that. Why do we need this? Because we need to handle users. Again, we need to avoid abuse of our game, the anti-cheating systems. We need to implement multiplayer systems so that other players can play with each other and it becomes a collaborative game. We need to implement security so that people's data and people's achievements cannot be stolen or modified. We also need users' progress and achievement tracking. So that is something where completely backend comes up. The actual web development backend comes into place. And sharing achievements to social media, these are something called as social media integrations when you come to the development sites. And again, that is the reason you need to become a good web developer as well if you want to become a web game developer in the first place. And we have then hardware. Why hardware? Because there are some novel things with games. You can create AR/VR games. You can create custom controllers, interfacings. You can even create your own controllers that have some kind of new way of interacting with the system. Like we have joysticks for a long while. But if you have some concept in your mind, go ahead, create your own controller, do the hardware part and create a game out of it. All up to you. And of course, there is this spec requirements parts, because if you understand hardware better, you can also analyze what is the minimal spec requirement for your game to run. And that is something very important when it comes to like thinking of how things work, or how will it perform on a particular device. And it gives you confidence on saying, yes, you can play the game. Because in the beginning, you won't be having much of the test cases like people testing your games. It is a bit troublesome to test your games, but yeah. And now there's something that is now some parts that are very novel to the game development side of the whole process. Creating a composition, which includes characters, storylines, one of the most important parts, the sceneries. Also, there are in-game actions, because that is what something engages people. I still remember people playing GTA 5 just for the sake of flying a plane. Getting it? This was just this one action that they cannot do directly very easily in real world, and that's what brings them to the game. It was not the whole game in the first place. Okay, so composition holds a lot emphasis when it comes to the success rate of the game. And there is this game design part, which includes design, development, and hardware integration. This hardware integration part is a bit kind of painful sometimes, because yes, there are so many different devices that you need to adapt. But at the same time, if you are experienced enough, you know how to do it very quickly and easily and still being robust. The designing part, it is again a creative side. The development part we already partially covered before. This is a whole introduction because your main challenge won't cover this much. But yeah, if you can go for it, if you have time, it would make the game really amazing. Now the marketing sides, because yes, as I said, key games don't work without money. You need money to keep them running. So that's why you need revenue. That's why you need to promote it to generate more revenue. You can even give a like this. Yeah. Then you also need to increase its consumption. Okay, it's a typo. Okay, thanks, Aman Thakur. Man, that was a mistake. Anyways, let's get back to this again. You need network. You need to understand handling users, avoiding user abuses for game, multiplayer, security, users progress achievement. This was the part that was included in web development sites, sharing social achievements to social media. Then you have hardware. These are the novel sides of the gaming industry, and they are really amazing right now. They are growing a lot. There are new things coming on to understand the medical sciences, and yes, they are AR VR powered. Then you need this composition part, the character, story, timeline, sceneries, in-game actions, and the main game design part where you cover development, design, hardware integrations. Then you have this revenue part. This is one of the more crucial, because if we talk about web development, there is this business model. In game development, it is this revenue model that you need to build to keep it going. And then you need to also increase consumption of the game, make sure it suits well and is more audience is able to play your game in order to again generate more revenues. Why it is doing so? Okay, it can be a bit tricky sometimes. Yes. Then you have capital management, because these are the financial sides of your game mostly, and we can just go ahead and finally land onto the fun part of the whole process. The final completion part, games and gamification. This is going to be a very small segment, don't worry. We will wrap in time, don't worry. Games and gamification. First touch the gamification part, because that is very simple to understand. Gamification becomes more natural step when you have a game. So develop your game first, and then try to see how can you make it grow and make it more enjoyable. So these are the basic steps of gamification. You try to increase user engagement for more things to be done by the user, and that to be enjoyable. So that's why they will engage. There should be some reward systems maybe that will make them be more satisfied with your game, and there should be some achievements that make them be more that brings enthusiasm to play the game more further and see what next level I can reach, what more I can achieve. There should be some kind of motivation in case they kind of lose a bit. So there should be some offerings time. Okay, let's have some extra coins and have some extra gears and try again and see if you win this time. And there should also be some kind of learning. This was the main part. I think that why COD worked, COD and those games worked a lot, because behind the scenes there was these learnings that you were able to explore on a big environment. You can use multiple items, you have these gears, you learn management, you learn how to implement a strategy when you have a team with you and even when you are alone. So that is a really crucial part when it comes to like big games. And yes, there should be some challenges, because if a game is not challenging, then how it is a game in the first place, right? And a lovely games. Now here's a question for you. Games spoil your life. True or false?
False.
False.
False, okay. Any more?
Yes, I feel like it's a bit time consuming.
Time consuming, yes. So your answer was true. It's 2 false, 1 true. Any more? Tanishka Yadav, somewhat. Okay, that's a diplomatic answer, please. We are not kind of judging anything, okay? We are just trying to have our opinions, like introspecting our own thinking, okay? So just be frank and be open and say what you think. True or false? Depends on the amount of time given, okay? That is also a good answer, but yeah, first true or false? 2 true, 2 false. We have a tie here. Anyone? Hard false. Okay, so it breaks, false. Okay, it's breaking. Yes, it's breaking. The whole.
They're more into games, so I know that they'll say false. Yeah.
Actually, not because they are into games more, but because they have been into games for a long while, and there is a whole evolution of games and what impact they do on you. That is why most of the boys will say it's false. And yes, the answer is false. But wait, there are other sides to it. Let me. Now it makes clear. It is a carrier for
this is
something.
true.
Yes.
Now the question becomes much more clear, and now it falls into place without any true or false. Because at the end of the day, remember that it's not, reality is never binary. It is not either true, either false. There are some middle shades of gray, and that is what this statements, I guess, justifies well better. Yes, now we are getting a lot of truths. So the truth is spoken, I guess. Moving ahead, some games that we know, right? We know about this. How many of you have played this? Pokemon Go. It was a very big hit a while back. A few raised hand. Good one. A few more. Any addiction will ruin your life. That is a damn truth. Yes, it is perfect. Any addiction will ruin your life. Yes. So this falls. Now we are actually covering like what are the categories of games or what are the genres of games. So hey, this falls into AR game. Why it is AR game? Can anyone explain? And for those who are wondering about like will we go beyond time? Don't worry, we'll wrap around 6:15 maybe, because these slides are just going to be like going in one, then next, then next. It will immediately finish. So how it is an AR game?
It integrates with our surroundings.
Integrates with our, okay, my god, that is actually you're trying to answer the right point, but integrating the earth, man, come on, we are not completely using the earth here. We are just using a view of earth, okay? Virtual world, okay, it is augmented in our reality. Aman Thakur getting the point. You can't answer, I guess, because you already know the whole slide. Virtual world, yes. Okay, let me bring this to notice. How many of you know about VR, virtual reality? Anyone?
Yes.
Of course, I do know. Yes. So virtual reality has the whole virtual world, and you are going inside the world, right? You live inside the virtual world when it comes to VR. Augmented reality plays a different way. It uses the actual reality and augments it to the characters and elements from the virtual world. That's why it is called augmented reality, because it takes the reality one step further. That's why you can see in the actual scenario there is no Pokemon, but when you see through the phone, you can see one, because it is being placed in the real world. Okay, now it will be clear, augmented reality and virtual reality. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
And even if you still have doubts, remember it this way. Augmenting something is taking it to the next level, making it bigger, making it enlarging it something. And when it comes to reality, augmented reality, there is no virtual world. There is parts of their virtual pieces, okay, in the actual reality. Moving ahead. Anyone? Remember this? This is a new game that has just came up, Ant-Man VR. It is a virtual reality game. You are the Ant-Man. You can do that, do all those stuff. Right? How many of you would like to play this one? I'm in. I would love to. Hey, Ant-Man lovers, Marvel lovers. Don't worry, even I am one of them. So, any guesses? What will be the next game coming up? Let's see. Then we have a genre of racing games. This was VR, okay? Virtual reality games. The whole world is there. You put a headset on your head and you live inside that world to play the game. Then there is Forza Horizon racing games. You all know about it. So many. Hulk VR. Yes, that is also amazing. Forza Horizon. How many of you played this one? Is it good?
It's kind of it has best graphics in terms of racing game.
Cool. I'm yet to try, so I'm taking your point on it. Then next category, Plants vs Zombies. How many of you have played them? Please be honest here, okay? Even I have played that. Back in the days. Yes, me, yeah. Hardcore gamers who have been playing games from a long while would have surely played all these games because this was the evolution of games. These were so simple and yet so enjoyable. And these kind of games, when you have to save 1 point from the attacking areas, these are called as castle defense games. Legends Mobile has a part of it. If you remember, you have to save your own castle. Then there are these other games as well. Even COC can be called a bit of castle defense, but it also falls into the multiplayer games and all stuff. So there is a whole lot of evolution of these games, but this was the beginning. This was pure castle defense game. Then a music game. We all know about this one, right? Again, raise your hands if you have played this one. And God bless your fingers if you have made a high score on this one, because I was not that good at this one. Piano tiles, enjoyable, fun, but really challenging when it comes to. Then these are the games that I would not recommend, but yeah, these are games as well. These are falls into the category of casino games. Now, by now you might be thinking like why we are talking about these genres, because when you develop a game, you need to identify your genre and accordingly target the players, so there is a higher chance of a game to go success. Okay. Anyone played this one? Casino game? Thargo, yes. No. Okay. Quite a few, because of course casino games don't invite real hardcore players much, because it is more of a time killer maybe, or maybe time fillers. But for those hardcore gamers, they need a world to play with. Like they want to have a whole world. Now, when it comes to games, we have talked a lot. We have I have mentioned the name as well. FPS game. Anyone? Any FPS game?
Warzone.
Warzone. Yes. Answer. CS:GO. Yes.
CS:GO.
So on. Valorant. CS. Okay, Valorant CS players are a lot of them are here. Sniper 3D. I would say it is more of a shooter game only, because you are not actually moving in. Or wait, no, right. It is a FPS game, first person shooting. Even though you are not moving, you are in a first person position.
Call of Duty.
Which one? Purana?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Yes, this was I was waiting for. I thought to give you a hint in case you can't guess this easily. It was Call of Duty that I was prepared for. So one thing to notice here, these things generally look something like this, because this is what describes what is an FPS, first person shooting. You have to have a person, you have to have a shooting system in place. You may or may not be allowed to move from places. Maybe you are allowed to move sideways only, or sorts of stuff. But if it feels like a person doing it, the player is a person and not just a gun, then it can be a FPS game. Best examples, I'm not including the other one for all the sake reasons. Now, the sports game, and you all will admit that, yeah. Yes, this one I'm talking about, Devanshu, but I'm not going to say the word even. I don't even like that elements. I'm not going to risk my session on that. So, yes, sports game, how many of you played this? Most of us would have played this back in the days when it comes to, like, you can say, like 10th, 11th, 12th, all those days. We used to go along with our friends to play with these. Gargi, wow. I know Gargi, and it's amazing to see that even girls have played this, because generally boys are more passionate about these cricket and FIFA games and all stuff. But yeah, these teach a lot. These, of course, at the end of the day, it teaches you sportsmanship, virtual ways, of course. Now another one. This might be a bit tricky for the hardcore gamers to guess, but there is an epic game in the side of puzzle games. Can you name the game? And let me tell you, the hardcore gamers used to hate by the people who were addicted to this one game. 2048. That is one answer, but not
Candy Crush.
Yes. You guessed it right. It is Candy Crush. It was such a high hit in puzzle games, because before that puzzle games were there, but those were not that much addictive. Candy Crush was another level of addiction, man. And for all sake reasons, there are still people who are still playing it, maybe around 1000, 2000 levels. I don't remember any puzzle game going beyond 900 or maybe 1000. But this one has broken all the bars of a puzzle game. And this one is something I've played, I've enjoyed a lot. And how many of you played this one? Pranay, good. Love to see this. Yes, I played up to 2 to 3, 5 levels. Oh my god, Saloni, amazing. Such a dedication. Mohit Gupta. Any more? Anyone? Bookworms? Yes, Tanmay Rana says yes. These kind of games fall into the category of educational game because the whole intent is to teach something, but in a gamification manner. So despite being a puzzle game, it is teaching you words. That's why it is an educational game. And this matters a lot when you are trying to market your game, because you are not just giving a puzzle. You are giving a puzzle that teaches you something that you didn't knew. So that becomes a huge reason to play it, because you are at the same time enjoying and learning something new. How could we forget this one? Adventure and action game, and we can also put it in the category of open world games, because you have a lot of room to play with, lot of side missions to play, a lot of area to explore, a lot of experiments to do with the game. Who are the players of Assassin's Creed? Any version, not just Valhalla. Ganmay Bahar, we have a lot of gamers here. Good to see this. And if anybody of you notice, the whole background is actually an arcade for all those long-term game players. Assassin's Creed 3, yes, that is also falls into the same category. Moving ahead, okay, now we are a bit hard on time. Which category is this? It is simulation. Why? Can anyone justify? Sims 3, if you know about it. Anyone?
So it's like a role playing.
Role play, yes. Why it is so simulation? Like there are RPG games, but why this one is being called as simulation? There has to be this one different element that sets it apart and opens the door for a simulation game. Let me simplify for you. What does it simulate?
Real life.
Exactly. And that's why it is a simulation game, because it is teaching you elements that actually exist in real world. If it is doing it, it is a simulation game. The AR games are also under the fall of simulation games. Dora the Explorer like game, okay. Come on. I didn't knew that it has a game as well such long. But let's see. Dora the Explorer is, yeah, it kind of falls into simulation, but I won't suggest, because you're not actually interacting and things are not happening the way it happens in the real world. Simulation, talking term, maybe, because it is simulating a part of it, like simulating your voice, simulating the requirements of a cat. So that also, there are these elements of simulation, but not the complete game is simulation game, because it is more of a meant for kids game, just enjoyable. Now this one only hardcore gamers I think will be able to guess. This is an RPG game. This is also an action game. Okay, RPG means role player game. Those dashes represent the characters, but you need to guess the name of the game.
Medal of Honor?
Medal of Honor, I think you are right on the second two words, but not the first one. The first word is just 3 characters. Of course, it is simplified dash of war. Oh, sorry, I told you.
God of War.
Yes.
God of War.
This is the best RPG and action game I thought of. I could thought of. So here it is. You must have played this, right? Have you?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, obviously.
It is kind of implicit when it comes to games and pure hardcore gaming. And that brings us to the end. And before we wrap up, a sneak peek at the distribution of these game genres. These game genres, before Aman Thakur kills me for this, for mispronouncing it. So you can see, like, these are the stats from 2017. I'm sorry for this. I could not find a good one updated, because right now it is more biased with these games from like Call of Duty, Call of Duty, and its many versions. So there was no much of answers for category based charts. So let's have a look at the 2017. We have other strategy, 25% into shooters. You can call the Call of Duty area for this. 21% into action. You can put this for the open world games. For example, you can select what was the name? Cyberpunk, Max Payne. Yes. Then there are 11% sports, Forza Horizon, role-playing games, when God of War, adventure games. There are so many of them. One of them, do I remember that the name of this? It was some Trivago. No, not Trivago. Frivago was the name, I guess. Then there comes racing, pure racing. We are not just sports, but another
Need for
genre inside.
Speed.
Yes.
Need for Speed.
Need for Speed. Yes, that falls into racing. Then there is fighting. You can say Tekken and all those games. Strategy. We covered one.
League
Can
of
you name
Legends.
strategy games?
Clash of Clans.
League of Legends, yes, that falls into strategy. Yes, it does. And one that I was expecting was COC again. These are the strategy-based games when you have to just plot the whole game and see if it works or not. So that's what we covered. And there is this sales in US only by 2018 by genre. Most action, then shooters, then role-playing, then comes racing, strategy, fighting, and others. And that's all for now. This was the session. Tomorrow we will be actually building some games. Today's session was just an introduction to the whole industry of gaming and what is covered inside it, the parts we might miss. And for today, thank you. And it's a game over for now. I hope to see you back again tomorrow because we'll be building one or two games tomorrow. Let's see as much time allows us. Now, for any questions, any doubts, anything, if you want to stay, hold back. But otherwise, the session is ended. Dismissed. Thank you for being here.